So here's how we did a transformation of our client's lounge. This was an incredible new build home in Chelmsford, and our clients wanted to move in ASAP as they had a baby on the way. The first thing that they told us though was that they wanted to gut everything out. That being the carpet that they already had, the walls needed to be all updated, and also they wanted to add more lighting in each room by adding track lighting. Even though we had to speed up the process as much as possible, we had to make sure everything was considered and well thought out beforehand. So in this lounge, one thing we really noticed was the fact that it was very narrow. And what happens with narrow spaces is people tend to put large pieces of furniture in and bulk it up so that there's not enough movement in the room. So what we'll do is I'll show you what the space is. As you can see, we had this really long wall and a lot of excess windows, which weren't really showing much. Our initial idea was to maybe close them up with paneling, but our client really wanted that natural light. And to be honest, we understand who wants to block out natural light if you don't have to. As you can see, the carpet was just very dark and they wanted this light neutral tone. So we wanted to change that with engineered wood. As you can see in this picture, it's a very long, narrow room. So we wanted to not make it feel that way. We wanted it to feel as wide and as much depth as possible. This wall was where the media wall was going to go. This would also be the wall where all the storage would go, all the toys, all the DVDs, well, not DVDs anymore, any magazines, you name it, all the things that you want to hide away. But then also we wanted to show a little bit of display and add in a bit of a lighting. Our client would actually generally come in from the back garden into the lounge. So we had to make sure that this floor was a very hard wearing floor where getting dirty wasn't an issue. So wooden flooring was the best option. But we didn't mean that we wanted to stop by keeping the warm room. We still added a rug. We just made the pathway wide enough so that they'd be able to walk onto the wood rather than onto the rug. So as you can see, we did a 2D plan of the space. And this really allows us to see how that room should feel and how we want to make sure it feels as large as possible. So we'll show you the 3D render that we had done. So this is to show you how it all came together. So the garden is over here. Our client would walk in and we were greeted by this large but yet narrow sofa. And in order to make sure that it didn't feel like it was too bulky, we made it off the floor. So we added legs rather than it being flush to the floor. This allowed you to see the floor underneath, and that makes you feel like the room is bigger than it actually is. So on that long sofa wall, it wasn't really looking impressive enough just to add the sofa. So our idea was to add paneling. And so originally we were saying we were going to close the windows completely so that paneling could really be the wow factor. But our client had a great idea and said, why don't we just cut out what's existing so that we still get the natural light? It worked perfectly. And what we did was we added some wall lights to just give that little bit of character on that wall without it being too overwhelming. But what that did was it made the sofa a feature without it being overpowering. And as you can see, we really tried to make everything off the floor so that you could see as much floor as possible rather than putting things straight onto it. There was 4 windows in this whole room. So when it came to window dressing, we really had to be careful on not making it feel too overpowering. So simple blinds were needed and curtains in the longer window, which was the door. But as you can see, because the room is so long, we didn't want to leave that dead space at the back. We wanted to still add seating, as one sofa is not enough for the only lounge in their house. Our idea was we could have put a sofa, but it would have felt too overbearing. Our client was okay to have 2 chairs. It still accommodated for the same amount of people, and it meant that they could actually keep that as a separate reading area, a nook, rather than it being just an extension of the lounge. Instead, it became another space. And so, as you can see, the TV wall was another wow factor we really wanted to try and achieve. It was the moment when you walk in. It's what everybody sees. So we really wanted to make sure it was impressive but practical by adding storage, by adding accessories, adding books, picture frames, people think things that you've collected over time, and then also that texture. So we weren't shy of texture in here, and we made sure that we added lighting, a lot of things to make it look impressive without being a wall that you would get bored of looking at after a while. And because the entrance to the room was a large door, we put curtains here just to keep that room feeling cozy. We used the same fabrics throughout all the curtains and blinds just so that it would flow, and we kept it very neutral. A little bit of texture, but a very neutral tone. We don't really like curtains to be a statement piece. Curtains should blend in. Just like your doors, everything, if it's matched and muted, you can add your pop of color through the armchairs like we did here, or your cushions, or even just the piping of your cushions, or your vases or accessories that you've collected. So now what we're going to do is we're going to show you how it looks from concept to completion. And that's something that we get really excited about, because this is where our ideas come to life. So as you can see, this is a 3D plan of it, where the client can really see how much space there is to walk around. We made sure that when they come from their garden, they can walk around here, avoid the rug by stepping onto the ground, onto the wooden flooring, and then therefore they'll be able to go into this room without having to damage anything that is more of a cozier piece that would require more maintenance. We wanted to add a bit of greenery. We wanted to make sure there was plenty of side tables. This coffee table / bench worked as a footstool as well. So whenever they wanted to put their feet up, they could easily bring that in, and it would make it feel a lot more comfy when you're wanting to watch that movie, or put the fireplace on your TV from Netflix, you name it, just to make it a little bit more of a dynamic room rather than it just for TV. So as you can see, that long wall that we had, and this is what we had suggested. And then we added the windows in by cutting them out. And this is how it turned out. It made that room now feel like every wall had its opportunity to speak. But because they were all matching in congruency with one another, it really brought that room together. It made that room not feel narrow anymore. And so that was something we were really proud of. And again, what we did with the blinds, we tried to make sure we could get as much natural light in. So we put the blinds as far up as possible so that the bottom of it, where it was held to this highest point in the fold, did not block any natural light. So you can see again how long this room is and what our idea was. We really wanted to keep everything very neutral. And then that further away color was the greenery of the plant and the armchairs. So here, the idea was the same. It was just a case of keeping it neutral, making that room feel wide, making sure there was enough seating, making sure that all the flooring was off the floor so that we could see the whole floor, so that the room didn't feel too cramped. This long media wall was something that we really took pride in, because not only was it storage for all the kids' toys, not only was it a display for them to put their lovely memories, it also had lights between the bookcases. So it made it a lot more personal. So you can see how it turned out as a whole. And we like to keep the TV on the wall because it just, again, made that space feel a lot more open. And it allowed that wall to now not only just be a media unit, but also a wow factor when they walked in. Notice how we kept the colours very subtle. But if you look up close, everything was textured. Down to the back paneling, it had a lovely pattern, but it was something that you could look at for hours and never get tired of. That is something that is so important with interiors. Interiors shouldn't change for the next 10 to 15 years. So our aim is to make sure it stands the test of time. And by using subtle tones, it goes such a far way. Adding color is very simple in accessories, such as cushions or vases. But adding it in your forever furniture means you are stuck with that color. So always opt for the neutral tone if you can. So here's just to show you a close-up of the media wall and how the beautiful light inserts really added that warmth to the room. It just makes it a lot more pleasing to the eye every time you're watching TV. But the difference is it's not fighting for attention. It's something to look at whilst you're watching TV, not something that you're getting... it's something to just watch and enjoy when you're watching the TV. And so again, just to show you how much storage there was, the wall units had storage. Inside at the base units, they had storage. And this was a long wall. This was over, I want to say 4 meters long. So maybe even longer. So the idea is it didn't feel huge, but it felt impressive, and that's what's important. So this is again the wall that the door that they come in from the garden, and we really just wanted to not add too much attention other than add the curtains. So for us, we opted to go for the curtains from the ceiling where we had the track, and it allowed the floor to ceiling and give that illusion that the room is much more taller than it actually is. Sometimes when you drop it, it actually makes the room feel lower. And because the ceiling height wasn't necessarily very high, that was the best way to do it. And what was great was your eye was drawn up to this wonderful track lighting that we had put in. Our client wanted as much light as possible, so we did it from the floor to ceiling. So it started from the TV unit, which went from the wall lights on the back panel of the sofa to then the ceiling light, and then on top of that, the track light. So there was light coming from all angles, and you could decide what lighting you wanted when you wanted it. And I think that's very important, especially in the UK where we have less natural light during winter times. So the more light we can get, the better. And then we choose what works for us on in our mood or how the day goes. So you can see the wall lights are put up, and it just added that little bit of character, a bit of artistry. And if you look up close, the wall panels had a lovely texture to it. The curtains and the blinds were very subtle fabric, which really complemented the wallpaper. And again, had a little bit of movement, a little bit of texture, but nothing to the point where your eyes would get tired or bored or find it overwhelming. So when we look at this wall, you can see the sofa. We did the same thing with the texture on here. We wanted that texture so it's hard wearing and easy to sit on without worrying that you're going to spill something. But you also want that luxury. So by using a fabric or a fabric which has more movement in it, but still a subtle color, it really looks impressive. It looks expensive. And that's something that we always try and do for our clients. We want to stretch the pound as much as possible and make that good look as best as it can. So by adding, for instance, the legs which were off the floor, you can see underneath, and you can see that that floor feels so much bigger now. Whereas if it was on the floor, the room would feel a lot more smaller. Same goes for the bench. But again, we wanted to keep that room feeling cozy. And in order to do that, we always like to add a large rug. And that generally goes around the space which is the most used. So in this situation, the sofa and the sofa was the most important place to add the rug. And again, because we didn't want our clients to walk onto it once they were coming from the garden, we've managed to curate a beautiful piece which was custom made in a lovely oval shape. Normal rectangular rugs are also fine, but this really added character to that room and made it feel a lot more bespoke to our clients' needs. By adding a little color in the side tables, it added that pop, but it was a neutral tone that didn't feel overwhelming. So it's just to show you how this room looked like when the lights were all off and the natural light was coming through. It was so neutral. It was so beautiful to be in that room in all aspects. And that's what I think is very important. How does that room feel when the lights are all on, all off? One is on. Do you feel that same warmth? And that's what's really important to us. And then just to show you how the curtains are drawn, we opted for pinch pleat. We always find that this fall comes out very beautiful and it's a contemporary but yet classic feel. So it really comes together really nicely. Other options are wave, which we also do love, but we felt for this home that pinch pleat would look really nice. There's me drawing the curtains, just in case you didn't know how to. And again, even with the art, we wanted a lot of movement, but we wanted to keep it neutral. So this lovely 3D sculptural piece popped when you saw it. And what was great was that reading nook or that seating area could be moved around very easily. These chairs weren't heavy, they were movable. So if you wanted to move them more to the TV area, that could be done. If you wanted to keep them here to read a book, it could be done. There was plenty of options for movement in this room, and that's what we also wanted. As our clients had a kid, a newborn, they need space to move around. So if certain pieces need to move around, we have to make sure there's an area available. And that was definitely something we tried to consider. Again, this is just show you a close-up of all the texture. You can see that sofa, the amount of movement is on there, but then we try to keep the rug really subtle, but by adding that beautiful piping around the edge. It's these small little details which make something feel a lot more richer, a lot more well thought of. And so whenever you are looking to buy, always ask yourself, do all these things coordinate well together? From the outset, it looks, oh, it's all the same tone. But when you look up close, everything surprises you each and every time. And that's what we always try to achieve. Here's me showing you how to sit on the sofa. As you can see, it was super comfortable and you can see all the textures again. Adding that little bit of accessory, for instance, a beautiful chess piece and a coffee table book, a tray to put your your drinks on. It made it practical as well as comfy. So these are things that we really try to push in our home so that they're a room that you can use in every time of day, anytime, whenever you feel, rather than it being just a room for a TV room's sake. It's a room to relax in. It's a room to bring friends together. It's a place to just build memories together in. By the way, if you're looking to do your own home, please click the first link in the description and we'd be happy to give you a complimentary discovery call to discuss your needs.